All right, we are almost done with our app. We're going to build a little more today, and we're going to put both parts together as I did last time. I separated housekeeping. We're going to do it all in one video today. So we're going to be working with our persistent data, kind of the extension of this app. And in this activity, we're going to manage the persistent data. And what that is any data that's stored that's not lost after an app is terminated or power goes off. So that's persistent. It stays there. It's permanently saved. So what are some ways that we use technology today? Well, social media posts, crowdsourcing apps that collect information, weather, things like that, health fitness apps, your Fitbits and stuff like that. Those are the kind of things that we're going to be talking about that uses this stuff. So with our app today, we have our monthly flu patients piece. But one of the things we didn't put in here is what if we wanted to track some information about the clinics that are submitting stuff as well. So what we want to do is before we add our database functionality, we're going to add a section to the view layer to collect clinic information. So over here under the vertical arrangement, we're going to scroll down a little bit and we're going to see the horizontal arrangement. I'm going to highlight it. And what we're going to see here is that I want to add one more horizontal arrangement above this little box, above this little thing. There's no such thing actually as a spacer. What we did is we took an arrangement and renamed it as spacer. So what I want us to do is scroll down to layout. And we're going to grab a vertical arrangement. And we're going to drag that vertical arrangement above that spacer. Okay. So we're going to add several labels. So we're going to go back in user interface. And we're going to have a label here. And next to that label, we're going to put a text box. Okay. Oops. One thing I just noticed we forgot to do here. And let me delete these. As inside our vertical arrangement, we're going to want to add a horizontal arrangement. I completely forgot. Sorry. So we're going to put a horizontal arrangement inside. So this is going to allow us to keep our information easy for the two things. And then we'll put another one in there, another one in there, another one in there. So I'm going to put 3 horizontal arrangements in here right away. 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be for the different information we're going to be storing. So first, we're going to go to a label. And in the label, we're going to call it clinic name. And next to that label, we're going to put a text box. Okay. And now let's rename this. We're going to rename this label clinic name label. And we're going to rename this one clinic name text. Okay. In the next horizontal arrangement, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull a label, and we're going to put a text box next to it. And we're going to change the label to say clinic address. Okay. I forgot to say in the hint box, we're going to get rid of the hints. The text box. We don't want those showing up. Okay, so now we got to rename this one. This label will be clinic address label. And this one will be clinic address text. And finally, the third one that we're going to put in here, we're going to start with our label. And then we're going to add a text box. And let's first get rid of the hint of the text box. And for this one, we're going to rename it clinic phone number. So in the text, I'm going to put clinic phone number. And we're going to name it clinic phone label. Okay. And then clinic phone text. Okay. So now that I got all those included, everything's looking good. And we have our show data, clear data. We're going to want to add one more button down here, and we're going to want to have one for saving data. So I'm going to grab a button, and I'm going to put it here with clear and show. We know that we just need to make it bold, and we're going to call this one save. Okay, S-A-V. All right. Don't forget that we have to rename this button. Instead of button 1, we'll rename it save button. Now, to make sure everything looks pretty good on our buttons here, we have show data, we have save, we have clear data. I'm just going to make it clear. And remove data, I'm just going to make it remove. You try to clean it up a little bit so it looks a little neater. This way, when I'm looking at my app, it'll work. Now, if you want to put your app sideways, here's another thing you can use. We're going to go up to screen. We're going to scroll down, and we're going to make it scrollable. So now we can scroll our app up and down. And by that, I mean when we go to our tablet, we can scroll information up and down. Gives us a chance to kind of be able to use our screen a little more than what we have and try to clean it up a little bit. I like showing it this way so everything looks pretty good. Okay, so now that's what we've been able to do so far. Now we have our new vertical arrangements. It contains our horizontal arrangements, and we're ready to go. Excuse me, gotta get a drink there. Nothing like some good Diet Coke. And I also have water here in case anyone's wondering. It's core water. It's almost balanced at a 7.4 pH. All right, so now we're going to start using our database to collect stuff. So whenever an app developer wants to store information permanently on a device's memory, so anyone's phone or anyone's tablet or whatever has the app downloaded, in the database, each data element is going to have 2 properties. Some sort of tag that you can refer the tablet or the device to go find the information, and how much value there is. The value is actually the data element, and the tag is the description. For example, if you wanted to create a database that stores clients' names, date of births, one tag would have to be name, and the value would be the person's name. Another tag would be date of birth, and the value there would be whatever its date of birth is, if you want day, month, year, whatever it is. This is where you could use tables to organize your stuff. So in App Inventor, we have something called the TinyDB component, and it provides a database to store data and save it on someone's device. So in the disease tracker, we're going to have the following data elements to be stored. Clinic name here, clinic address, phone number, and then all the entry amounts, the months, and the number of patients that they saw for that month. So why do we think we want to have the sum and average not stored in here? Because that could change a lot depending on what's stored, and it could mess things up. So storage is kind of limited in its resource because we know some devices have large storage, some don't. So it's important to be mindful of the information you choose to store. To save space in a database, programmers usually have to avoid storing values that can be calculated during some sort of runtime as you're using the app. In this disease tracker, the sum and average do not need to be stored because that's as you're running it, because they can actually be calculated during the data display. People can look at that and then it can go away. So what we're going to use is this item that's down here in storage, something brand new. It's called a TinyDB, which means Tiny Database. So if I click on it, it gives you an explanation here. If you wanted to pause the video and read it, you certainly could. So we're going to click Tiny Database, put it here, and it drops it down as a non-visible component. The Notifier and Tiny Database are here because you can't see it. It's going to provide the app the ability to store data in the actual memory, so whenever it saves in the Tiny Database, unlike variables, you're not going to be able to see it. So all data temporarily or permanently saved, remember, is in the model layer. So we created that Save Data button, so now let's start to program it. So we're going to go into blocks, kind of zoomed out on stuff. I'm going to just kind of zoom down into some space here. As we work, we're not going to be needing much of the other stuff. We're going to come back to the Clear Data button when it comes to housekeeping stuff. But what I want us to do now is go get that save button. So we're going to scroll down here to where we have the save button, and we're going to do a dot click. Okay. Nothing's really changing on our tablet right now, just over here in the save stuff. So what we want to do now is we want to go to the Tiny database. So again, that's all the way down here. And we're going to want to grab the store value. So we're going to store value of something. Now, there's 5 different things that we're going to store value for. Remember, we're going to be storing value for the address, the name, the address, the phone number, the month, and how many patients. So we're going to need this 5 times. So Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, Control V. 2. Put them together. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, hopefully I haven't lost you yet. Now, for the first 3 blocks to the clinic data elements, just like variables and procedure names, it's important that we use descriptive databases to tag these. The easier the descriptive is in the tag, the easier it will be to pull that information later. So for these, we're going to use a text and keep it real simple using camel case. The first thing we need is the clinic name. So clinic, capital N-A-M-E. The other one below it will be clinic address. So we'll just remove name, the word address. And the third one will be clinic phone. And for each one of these, we're going to want to have the value to be stored as the clinic name text box. So it's going to come from the clinic name text box dot text. The address, as you figured, is going to come from the address text box, the text that was put in there. And then, yes, the phone one will also come from the text. Okay? So clinic phone text. So we're getting all these things from the lists or from the buttons that we have people adding information. Now, every time a user selects the Save Data button, the clinic's information is going to be stored in the Tiny database. So if the user enters the following information in the app, it would save. So let's do an example here. It's going to save it. So if I wanted for the clinic name to be a clinic for all, a full, we'll call it a clinic. Okay. The address could be something like 123 Main Street. And the phone number could be 262-123-4567. Now you guys all know my cell phone number. Don't go and tell people. That's the kind of data that's going to be stored now in the device. Okay? So we can click save, and that information will be there, but right now it's not showing up there because we haven't actually created it, so it gives us an error. So I'm just going to delete these things, but at least you now know where it's coming from. Okay? Let's get back here. So the arguments, yeah, we know that. We got rid of this stuff. So notice that you can only store the value of each database tag. So each one of these clinic names, address, and phone, only store that stuff. So this works well for the elements since it's only one name, one address, one phone number. However, the list of months and the list of the amounts are going to multiply or add up as we go. So to be able to store those values under one tag, the App Inventor provides a special block that converts everything into a string. So it's going to be something that we're going to be using here. So we're going to go to lists. And in the drawer, we're going to look for list to CSV. List to CSV row. And we're going to put that down here in the tag for this one. And we're going to be using the same one for down here. List to CSV row. So that's going to allow the value to store parameters. And we want them to tag them to global entry months. So we're going to get global entry months and global entry amounts. Things that we've been tracking ever since the beginning. Now that's what the value is going to be stored in. The tag we're going to use is the same tag we've been using so far. And the first one for months was entry. Months. Sure it's spelled right. And then entry amounts. Those are our tags. I did those backwards, sorry. Entry amounts. Okay, so now we have our tag, and now we know where we're going to go store that information. So this is where we could start storing the month and how many people showed up as patients for that information. So notice that we have no spaces between the lines and the commas and everything. Everything's straight on. And now we can use the notifier to then put something in that says, once this is all in there, we know that it's done successfully. So we've done this before. Let's grab the notifier, and it's going to give a message. And now that all this stuff has been properly put in, let's have it say, this data is successfully saved. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Exclamation point, exclamation point. There's 5 things, so I'm excited about all of them. So we can put all our information, and it's going to store it. So if I put in a name, okay, clinic, and we put in an address, 123 Main Street. Oops. Oh, my app closed. 123 Main Street, and the number 262 123 4567. Okay, January, and we'll put in 12 patients. Data is successfully added. And now if I click save, this data is successfully saved. So sweet. We now have saved our data. That's great. So everything's working the way we want it to. All right, at this point, the data has been stored into a data layer of the app. To show that this data has actually been included, we're going to have to display the saved data in a view layer by loading it on a screen when the app is launched. So we're going to go and add another item here, and we're going to go to the screen 1. So here in the screen 1, we want to grab an initialization. That's probably a good spot. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out the following, and we're going to be storing this information so that everything that's on this screen is initialized and saved. So let's go to the clinic name text box. Let's grab text. That's the first thing. We're going to set clinic name .text, and we can actually copy and paste this 3 times. And you know that the next one will be address, and the next one will be phone. Now to store these things, we're going to put them in a tiny database. So we're going to go down here again to tiny database, and we're going to use a get value. We're going to do that for each one. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the value from its certain tags. So remember the tags we used before. We're going to use the same ones again. So in screen 1, it'll be the clinic name, the clinic address, and the clinic phone. And as far as what values, if it's not there, we're just going to leave it blank if something forgot to be put there. So as for lists, they require a bit more work here, as you can see. We get the value of the list from the database. We're going to convert the CSV row, and then we're going to put in our months and our amounts. So now this time, we're going to go here and we're going to set 2 different globals. Remember, months and amounts. Months and amounts. We're going to grab these from a list. So go to list, and we're going to take it from the CSV row. So now we're going to take the list from the CSV row. So before we put it to the CSV row, now on the screen, we're going to get it from that row. So now they're kind of working together. So we're going to call it Tiny Database. So I'll copy and paste this one. I'll copy and paste this one. So we just had to add a step. And now we got to make sure we have the right names here. Remember, this one is entry months, right? Capital S. Entry amounts. And again, if the value is not there, it's going to say blank and blank. Now, the other things we have to call are the things that we're keeping track of as well. And remember that we're also keeping track of patients, their months, and the average of that display that we're showing. So at this point, we now have to go in here and we also have to call up a couple procedures. In the right order, sum, then the average, and then finally the data display. So we need to test the app to make sure the data is entered and saved properly and loads when the screen is initialized. So we're going to enter a mock clinic name. We'll use the same ones we did. This time we're going to add an entry month. So I'm going to go over here to our app and add April. And let's add 97 entries. Click add. Now the data should be successfully saved. We're going to touch the save button. And now it's also been saved, 5 exclamation points. It shows it's there. We're going to close the AI companion to show that the stuff saves. So we're going to close that. We're going to refresh this. We're going to go to connect. We're going to update our app again. I'm going to scan it. I'll put our tablet down. And we're going to deploy our app again. And it should load with the data that we entered during last month. See? Nothing disappeared, even the poor spelling of clinic. Everything is there. Okay? So now we were able to show you how to save things so they don't disappear. Okay? All right, so that works for now, but there's also a housekeeping challenge I want us to do. So you might have noticed that we've gotten errors before in our app. Well, to make sure we don't have errors, I'm going to show you what we can do to prevent those from displaying. In the clear data button, it doesn't clear the text boxes. I had to actually manually go delete these. That's annoying. We want to be able to fix that too. And if we didn't complete the previous challenge, then we also have to make sure that the clear data button doesn't clear all the other information. We've already done that, so that will make this a little easier. Okay, let's get into the housekeeping piece first. So the first thing I want us to do is I want us to go look at where we put some information in previously. See, there's that annoying error that you probably saw. So we're going to go over here to where we just worked on the screen 1, and we're going to add something under here underneath the cell phone piece. We're going to add some if-then pieces about the database. Okay, and we're going to actually end up doing 2 of these. So I'm going to put them in right away. So they're there. So the first thing what we want to do is we want to say that if we had the tiny database with the entry months, okay, before we do the months, if the months was blank and it equaled blank, then what do we want it to do? Well, then what we want it to do is to get rid of that error, we're going to tell it, yes, we know it's supposed to be empty. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab an equal. But for this one, we're going to say not equal. So with the slash through it. So let's say we grabbed a tiny database. Same one we've been using to store the value there. So let's say we stored the value. And we got to include the entry month. So I'm going to copy this. Oops. Come on. Computer must be getting tired, just as I am. This one's going to equal nothing. Okay, so if it equals that, And we're going to be doing the same exact thing for entry amounts. M-O-N-T. Oh, I forgot the H here. No wonder none of that probably will work. Entry months. See, it's always important to double check those things, and I didn't. Good thing in the video we're still working, so we can fix those. Did I misspell it somewhere else? M-O-N-T-H-S. That's correct. I think I'm good everywhere else. Okay. Whew. Good to have that fixed. So we're going to basically do the same block for the if statement down here. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to change entry amounts. Okay, is amount spelled right? Yes. So if those are equal to 0, then what we want it to say is, well, then set it to 0. So we're going to set the entry months from the CSV row. So from CSV row text, we're going to grab that tiny database here, and we're going to make sure that that's what it shows. So we're saying, yeah, we do know it's supposed to be that way. So I'll copy and paste it here, and all I got to do is change it to entry amounts and change the name here to entry amounts. Okay. So that's going to help us with that part. Now the other thing we have to do is be lazy with the clear button. So where's our clear button? Here it is. I'm going to move this one over here out of the way. And what we want to do is we also want to make sure that when we clear it, we're clearing the text boxes to be nothing. So if I click the clear button, it clears everything. So that's a real simple one. We're going to take the clinic name text box dot text, and what do we want to change the wording to? We want to change the text to what it's going to be when it's blank, which is nothing. We're going to copy and paste that 2 more times, one for the address and one for the phone number. Okay, so now we have our clear button set up. So everything is working the way we want it to. Excuse me. One more. I'm so glad you guys get to experience that even on the internet, on our YouTube video here. You still get to enjoy the wonderful sneezing that I do. So it's like you're right here in class. And that's it for this one. I'm going to have a second video that I'm going to do that's going to allow us to do another screen. And I'll talk about that in the other one. You guys will be able to work on that. It takes a little bit, but we'll get through it. So that's it for adding all this information so that we can store all the names and all the information in a tiny database on a device.